4.5. I'm going to say 4.5.
I think I'll have to get 5.
I kind of feel like he should have got killed as well.
4.
A 4. 3.5. I'm going to say 3.5. Did you like a piece of cake?
Yeah.
Sorry, that did look quite bad there, didn't it? Was it a couple of years later, 3-4 years later maybe?
Psycho 3, and this was Anthony Perkins' directorial debut.
Did he do much more after that? Or?
I don't know if he did anything else. He may have.
So he's directing and starring in it.
Quite an amazing job for a first-time director, but of course he's been around a long time and worked with Hitchcock.
Yeah, he's worked with the best.
Worked with the best, yeah. So it's obviously taken a lot on board, and this was quite a different film, but I thought a bit more Argento-inspired, a bit more schlocky, sleazy, and all these things.
After I watched Psycho 3, I feel like I need to have a shower. It's so soaked and sort of grimy and grungy. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I feel similar to Psycho 2. There's some stuff that I'm not so keen on, and like, but it swings for the fences, you know, in terms of being a sequel to Psycho. It doesn't feel like it's in debt to the original or anything like that. Even just from the soundtrack by Carter Burwell. And it's completely own thing.
Yeah. What's good about it sets the tone, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's different.
Very, completely. I mean, I think it's mostly kind of electronic or synth based. It's very melancholic, kind of, you know, not dark, but it's just there's a sort of like eeriness to it or something. It's very memorable, and it's threaded throughout the film because it's also apparently it's a pop hit that can be played in a jukebox. And then also I think Norman's obviously heard it on the radio and he's trying to play it on his piano. It just threads its way through there like it's some kind of dream or something like that.
Yeah.
And I love that aspect of it. That it's just like, yeah, I know Psycho's the greatest greatest horror film of all time, thriller, whatever.
We're not going to try and copy it.
We're not interested in that, you know.
And this was the best way to go about it, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of the best sequel. I'm not putting Psycho 3 up there with Aliens or Terminator 2 or stuff like that, but the best sequels kind of almost swap genre or change genre or kind of, you know, fiddle about with a sort of horror, action, you know, sort of parameters.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach those heights for sure, but it does all that kind of stuff, and that's why, yeah, I kind of really enjoy Psycho 3 for all its blemishes and stuff.
Maureen, where are you? Dear God, she's up there.
So this nun called Maureen, who is having a crisis of faith, and while looking to jump to her death, is kind of saved by fellow nuns, but in doing so, she knocks one over, killing her.
This is the opening of Psycho 3. Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay, where's this going? She gets picked up by a aspiring rock and roll star.
Dwayne Duke, played by Jeff Fahey, quite a well-known character actor, pops up in a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
I've seen his face, yeah.
Quite a fun character, but at the same time, he's a bit sleazy and...
I mean, he's fun, but he is an absolute dick.
You could have been coming instead of going.
not very nice.
And he picks up
Maureen. She's got the same initials as Marion Crane from the first film.
Yeah, that becomes a plot point.
And she kind of looks like her.
Short blonde hair, I guess, yeah. Aye, sort of petite sort of frame. I suppose it's kind of similar to Marion's sort of story. She's kind of like on the run from something and ends up in the wrong place, you know, the Bates Motel. So it does have that kind of connection to Psycho. I guess I just thought of that just now, but...
Yeah, but Norman sees her and immediately thinks of Marion Crane.
Yeah, right.
And then we get this flashback to the first Psycho film. We see what we think is Marion's head hit the floor, but it's actually Maureen's. And then we hear a record scratch.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, this is not the same kind of film.
No, definitely not. It's little touches like that, I guess. His fascination with her and her similarity to Marion from the first film kind of builds up to a similar sort of a scene where he's going in to kill her. She's having a bath rather than a shower, but similar sort of setup as he's going in dressed as mother. But he comes in to find that she is in the bathtub and she's slit her wrists. But in doing so, she sort of has a vision.
Yeah, I guess maybe because she's on her way out or something. She doesn't see a madman with
a knife in his mum's clothes. She sees the Virgin Mary with a cross.
Yeah.
She survives. Norman obviously takes her to the hospital. It's quite an interesting kind of like turn, you know, sort of like spinning on its head there, because you think it's just going to go through the same motions, and it doesn't.
Why are you so kind to me?
You remind me of someone I knew once.
And then they start a little romance.
Yeah, because they're both quite broken characters.
Yeah.
This is not so much a character study of Norman in this one, which is good because we've had that.
You've had that, yeah.
But in this one, he's kind of on the edge, isn't he, throughout? Quite unhinged and...
Yeah, but I think we're past the point of thinking that Norman can be redeemed at this point, so I think he's kind of overstepped the mark 2 times now, you know, in both films. So it's like, but it does that thing of what's the next facet we can give him. And the interesting thing is, well, Norman, we know he's had these issues with girls and with his mother and stuff like that, so let's see him having a romance, you know. It's fairly awkward, I suppose.
It's a few touching moments in that, I think. You kind of feel for them both.
I never really quite got a handle on her character. She was a bit back and forth and stuff like that, like going back to the nun to speak to the preacher and then coming back to Norman and stuff, and it felt a little bit, I just wanted her to kind of settle down a little bit after the suicide attempt and stuff. It's like, okay, I understand that. She's killed someone accidentally. She's had a crisis of faith, and she's like, sod it, you know. And then Norman saves her, Virgin Mary, Norman saves her, however you want to kind of put it and stuff like that. But then she still kind of flakes about a bit.
When Norman's kind of romancing Maureen, Duke's, he's got a job at the hotel.
He's kind of like on his way to LA to be a rock star, but he thinks, I need a bit of cash, so he does a bit of running the motel for Norman. He's got a room there as well, which suddenly gets incredibly seedy very quickly. I'm not sure why Norman's putting up with that, because you think about his attitude in the second film to the guy who's running it and has turned it into a bit of a sex motel.
Got rid of him quickly, yeah.
Yeah. So Duke's kind of doing similar. He's having ladies over. Some very weird kind of foreplay is going on. But again, it's the sort of thing where you're going, what is this about? But it's like, wow, it's not Psycho. You know, it's definitely not the first film. But there's a bunch of them there who feel like they're been pulled out of a different horror film. You know, it feels more like Friday the 13th or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're quite annoying and quite obnoxious, especially one of the guys who you think, he's going to die. And he doesn't die. Yeah. But some poor girl seems all right.
Do you mind, sister? This is occupado.
Feels a bit unfair.
During the 80s, obviously, there's a lot of slasher films, and I think this was kind of tapping into that.
Yeah, it definitely feels more like, I think we were saying the second one kind of avoided that kind of stuff, but this one's kind of goes a bit more into it and goes, this is what we're going to do, so that's fine. Our new girl, Norman's girlfriend, she meets a grisly demise as well, accidentally, with a similar kind of stairwell shot. Not done as well as the original Psycho, though.
I know I've hurt you. Can you forgive me?
Norman!
But that was a shame, because it looked like they were going to, make something of their relationship, possibly.
Yeah.
That wasn't to be.
Is that supposed to be Cupid's arrow that goes through her head?
It could have been.
It's quite quickly done, but it looks like there's a sort of statue at the bottom of the stairwell that she falls into, and it looked like an arrow, and I wondered if that was like Cupid's arrow. Very, very clever, obviously. Love will kill you in the end. That's the end of her, effectively, and then a showdown between Norman and Duke. he's got the corpse in the room, isn't he?
That he kidnaps the corpse.
Greatest value to me isn't her value to you.
I don't have that kind of money.
Don't cry poor to me, Norman. With that big piece of real estate up in the hill and this thriving business, why, if things got tight, you could just sell an acre. Yeah.
Please, Duke.
I mean, Duke is basically trying to blackmail a psychotic killer, so
Not going to go well.
not going to go well. It's just a great scene. The room is, as I said, it's like this seedy, grungy, horrible kind of room, lit in kind of red and green neon. What is it? Woody Woodpecker's playing in the background.
Yeah.
He's smashing Duke over the head with his guitar and stuff. It's just like, it's just incredible.
Even the corpse helps out, pointing.
The corpse.
Yeah, it points a finger.
Oh, lady.
That's right. Yeah, okay. I forgot about that. Plenty of killings in this one. How many killings? Quite a few.
Definitely the most, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the townsfolk seem to, they don't mind Norman. He thinks he's making the best of his life, so they don't believe he's a killer anymore.
But in a way, murderers who can't help themselves are victims too. Your point of view would be important to me.
This lady's bothering you, Norman. I'll have her leave.
Isn't your coffee break about over, Sheriff?
Most of them are giving him the benefit of the doubt. There's an investigative reporter who is trying to dig up dirt on Norman through people like Duke who know him, and she starts doing some research into Norman's mother from the second one.
I had you when I was very young, out of wedlock.
Who said she was his mother, and his real mother wasn't his mother. This gets confusing. But then she uncovers that that wasn't the case. So it feels like...
His real mother was the original mother.
Yeah. So it kind of feels like we've got screenwriters jarring with each other at this point. It feels like whoever, I don't know, I'm not sure who wrote the third one, but whoever was kind of like, yeah, I didn't like that stuff in the second one, which I agree with, but I guess once you've kind of set that in motion, that's the canon, then you maybe kind of need to follow that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But he tries to reverse it. It felt very much like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where it was like, your parents are this, no they're not, yes they are, So it gets a bit like that, and it gets a bit confusing. So at this point you're not really sure what's what. And I suppose if we were kind of complaining about the exposition scene at the end of Psycho, the original Psycho, then this exposition scene with the reporter, as Norman's chasing her with a knife and she's just shouting all this stuff about his mum and stuff like that, it makes the original Psycho film that sequence look like a masterpiece,
What did she do? Come to you, tell you that she was your mother? She was crazy, Norman, but she wasn't your mother. Neither are you!
It's quite bad. I think you could have probably taken her out of it, to be honest.
Good God, son. You'll never get out again.
He's taken off, and we get a slightly, I guess maybe a little callback to the original film ending when he's in the back of the car.
Yeah, with the severed hand.
Mother's severed hand. Not his real mother, according to this film.
Yeah, but does he know that? Or is he taking that on board?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he cares, does he?
Yeah, and I guess we don't really need to care about that too much at this point. Yeah. So yeah, and then that's the end of Psycho 3. Definitely a very interesting entry into the saga.
Some of the transitions in it were amazing, like changing from the hospital to the house, and it's just all in one shot.
Yeah, like they've set up a set that's got like 2 different sections to it. Yeah.
You were down there, weren't you, Mother? Weren't you?
And a bit of the knife where it looks like you're looking under a door. A lot of amazing flashes in it.
Yeah, there's definitely a directorial stamp on it.
Yeah,
which is good. Everything doesn't always work 100%, but going for it and doing something and doing its own thing. So can't fault that. So Psycho 3. I'm gonna say difficult. I'm gonna say a 3. I think. Yeah, I'm gonna say 3 because there is a lot of stuff that I really like about it, and I do like that it's just going for it, and I love most of the performances and stuff. But again, there's some stuff in it that doesn't quite work. Maureen's character is a little flaky for me. investigative reporter as well, as was sort of said, and little things like that. But yeah, I'm going to say 3. I think you're going to go a fair bit higher.
I don't know, not too much higher. 3.5, I think. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was just crazy fun. I love the style.
Yeah, got a lot of style and enough substance, enough just to get you through. I think it's not, totally like a great balance.
Why can't you leave my poor son, my Norman, alone?
Psycho 4, The Beginning.
Yes, and this was a TV movie.
Yeah, so you'd seen this before, yeah?
Yeah, I believe so, back in the day. I sort of remembered a lot of it.
Yeah, no, it's the only one I hadn't seen. I think, I don't know particularly why. I think maybe being put off with it being a TV movie, and also I think as much as we're kind of like enjoying 1, 2 and 3, possibly by that point I was sort of like feeling like, do I need to go back to more of this,
Now come answers to the questions audiences have been asking for over 30 years. Psycho 4, The Beginning.
That's one thing I like about sequels like this, is like going back with the same characters and locations and seeing things again from different ways and exploring it a bit more. But then even watching this last night, I was a bit like, 4 films in, I'm maybe a bit tired of the Bates Motel and the house of Norman Bates, although it's not heavily featured in it this time. But so it's more of a half sequel, half prequel.
Yes, and it seems to ignore Psycho 2 and 3.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you, because why would he be out?
He seems to be out in the real world again, and on the verge. Is he married at this stage?
He's with some...
He has a partner anyway.
He's a partner, they're living together in a normal house, and he's cooking, and he seems very domesticated and that. He's been out for a while, and the woman he's with was a nurse at the psychiatric ward that he was in, so it's not like she doesn't know his history and stuff.
Yeah, so she knows him well and knows his condition, but something's irking him. He's a bit worried about something, so he phones in to a kind of radio show.
This is Fran Ambrose on KTK, Talk of the Town.
I called because the focus of your show tonight is what makes boys kill their mothers.
And there's a psychiatrist who I think, does it say that he is a psychiatrist from the first film?
I believe there's reference to that. He was the exposition guy from the first film.
Yeah, different actor, but the same character, who's on the radio show, and John Landis is in the background. I don't know why.
Yeah, how did he end up there?
I have no idea. But he's there anyway.
It's just popped onto the set for the day and hung about.
You want to tell us about your mother, how she drove you to become what you became?
She'd be sweet one moment, and then she'd suddenly turn mean. Don't you have any respect for the dead?
So then we have kind of flashbacks to this stuff. So it kind of goes back and forth.
He announces quite early on to them that he's going to kill again.
Yeah, but he doesn't say who or why.
Oh, I've killed before. And now I'm going to have to do it again.
First flashback is he's like a young kid, teenager, a girl that he's having who's interested in him. They're wanting a little hanky-panky, or she is. He seems a bit cold about it. Worried about what mother's going to say, I guess.
Ha! Girl! Yes, girl! Mama's little girl!
Played by Olivia Hussey, who totally went for it.
I was fine until I gave birth to you!
I mean, he went for it, yeah, and maybe it wasn't written as well as it could have. I feel it's not down to her, maybe more direction and script writing and possibly editing, and having to kind of truncate this whole sort of relationship thing. It's not even like it gets a full film, it's like half a bit of a film, really.
Yeah, it feels like it has to be intense to get the whole thing across. Definitely could have spent a lot longer exploring the relationship.
Yeah.
Which of course they do in the TV show Bates Motel. They had 5 seasons of it.
Right, so it's quite a difference tact. I haven't seen that, but you've seen that, so
yeah, it's definitely worth watching, but it's set in modern day and they twist a few things about.
I'll take good care of you, I promise.
Both sort of like the the prequel stuff and the modern day stuff, neither feels like it gets enough sort of screen time, and I think possibly they should have chosen a lane or really kind of focused more on one or the other. So an interest in Norman being rehabilitated, although we did see that in 2, it's more interesting in that. But again, we don't get to spend enough time with him and his wife or partner or anything like that. I was talking about the young girl that his first kill, effectively. I mean, that seems to take ages, that whole section and seeing everything like that, and it doesn't really add much to what we already know, I suppose. Yeah, so it just feels a bit disjointed in that kind of way, and so it was definitely felt like my least favourite of the films in that regard. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, I liked it was different again. Came at it from a different angle.
Yeah, it felt a bit safer though. It took some risks with the sort of, the sort of mother Oedipus kind of stuff and everything like that. Definitely uncomfortable television viewing if you're all gathering around to a sequel to Psycho. It's definitely a bit risky with that kind of stuff. So it does have that, but maybe it didn't quite do the material justice, I suppose. But
yeah, but of course we do go back to the house at the end.
Yeah,
which was quite good to end it there.
It feels contrived to get to there, but I guess they kind of had to do it, basically Norman just says his wife's coming home, and he says, "Don't come to our nice suburban home, where I'm cooking dinner and stuff. Come to the Bates Motel, my house there, which is obviously dilapidated at this point." She's kind of like a bit unsure about that, but goes along anyway. I guess the reveal is that Norman is going to kill her because she's got herself pregnant.
She let herself get pregnant!
He doesn't want to pass on his
condition.
Yeah.
Which he believes is genetic.
He believes it's genetic, and he's researching it, and there's nothing that they can do about it, in terms of bringing the child up and stuff. She convinces him otherwise.
I love you. Our baby will love you. Give us a chance.
But I still kind of feel that at that point he's got a knife literally at her throat or something, and she has to convince him not to do it, and you'd kind of think that might be the end of that relationship.
Yeah, she's very understanding, has to be said.
As I said, we don't really get to know her as a character, really. There's not much time with her at all. So that doesn't really help in terms of understanding it.
Feels like this final battle, he's finally getting rid of his demons.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, and given that this was the last film, certainly the last film of this series, and the last film that Anthony Perkins did, because he died a couple of years later, it does feel like a nice bow tie on it, and like I say, probably my least favourite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at this stage, if you compare number 4 with the original, it's quite a difference.
Yeah, aye, definitely. But it feels like this came out in 1990 and it's made for TV, and I guess you kind of, I've got a Psycho film on TV tonight at 9 o'clock. You sit down and watch it. It kind of probably does what it needs to do. It gives you callbacks and you see bits and pieces. It's a problem with a lot of prequels, which is is it as interesting as the original? Because do we really need to go into all that stuff?
Yeah, explain too much. They do that with films too much these days. They feel like they have to explain everything.
Yeah.
Nothing's left to the imagination.
Yeah.
There's no mystery.
There is a little teaser at the end where you hear the baby cry.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that could have, potentially could have set up for
Son of Psycho.
Yeah, Son of Psycho sort of thing. I'm surprised that didn't happen, but so far not.
Just wait till David Gordon Green gets his hands on it.
Yeah, that's gonna be the next one, is it? A trilogy of sequels to the original Psycho. But we've got a trilogy of sequels to the original Psycho here. So that's enough, David Gordon Green. Stop it.
Had low expectations, so I think I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected to.
Okay.
I'd go with 3 just now.
Okay.
It felt like a TV movie, but a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A really good one.
Yeah, I think I'll give it a 2.5. If I watch it again, I think I might take it down a half, possibly. I'll be generous. I think I possibly liked some aspects of it, but possibly there was more that I didn't like than I did like. You've been generous, and I've come down half a step from all of your ratings, but it feels like
Yeah, but they're all in the same order, though.
I basically from best to worst is 1, 2, 3, 4. Not much surprises there, I don't think. So yeah, but worth checking out. Okay, well that's all I've got for you today. Let us know if we got it right with our ratings on the Psycho films. Let us know your preferences. But that's all we've got for you, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Let me out of here!